Welcome to This Explainer. All right, let's just step straight into the dark, eerie woods of Fairfax County, Virginia to explore a really terrifying campfire story. We've all heard those local urban legends, right? The hook-handed killer, the vanishing hitchhiker. But what happens when the truth hidden beneath the folklore is actually far scarier and far more real than the myth itself? Well, get comfortable because this one is a wild ride. We're looking at a legend that has literally terrified locals for decades. We're talking about a secluded, single-lane bridge known as Colchester Overpass. Rumors of an escaped maniac and midnight murders that supposedly stained the whole area with blood. If you grew up anywhere near Washington, D.C., Maryland, or Virginia, you absolutely know this as Bunnyman Bridge. Act 1, the 1904 Massacre. Okay, let's dive into this myth exactly as it's been whispered on Halloween nights for generations. Before we look at the facts, we really need to understand the nightmare that teenagers have been daring each other to face for over half a century. So, the folklore claims that way back in 1904, a local insane asylum was forced to close. During a bus transfer to a new facility, the vehicle crashed. Most inmates were recaptured or killed, but one escaped into the surrounding woods. This was a man named Douglas J. Griffin, who had allegedly snapped and murdered his family with an axe on Easter Sunday. As authorities desperately searched the woods for the fugitive, they supposedly found only one gruesome set of clues. Locals started discovering dead, skinned, and half-eaten rabbits just hanging from the trees around the Fairfax Station Bridge. The media, according to the legend anyway, quickly dubbed him the Bunny Man. And this brilliantly illustrates the absolute peak of the horror. The myth claims his reign of terror didn't stop at animals. The story goes that at midnight on Halloween in 1904, a group of teens hanging out under the overpass were attacked. Come morning, they were found strung up from the bridge, skinned and gutted, exactly like the rabbits. It's the ultimate cautionary tale, right? Act 2, the archival reality. So it's a genuinely terrifying ghost story for sure. But now what's really interesting is what happens when we look at the historical records, because the scariest part of this explainer is actually about to begin. In 1992, a local historian, actually scratch that, he was the Fairfax County archivist, Brian Conley. He decided he wanted to get to the absolute bottom of the Bunnyman mythos. He spent countless hours combing through old court records, local newspapers, and historical archives to uncover the true story of the infamous Douglas Griffin and this 1904 massacre. So, the crucial takeaway here? None of the 1904 myth was real. Conley discovered that Douglas J. Griffin just didn't exist. There were zero records of those grisly family murders. And to top it off, there was never an insane asylum in Fairfax County at that time. Even the nearby prison that often gets mentioned in the lore, that wasn't even built until 1910. The entire 1904 foundation was a complete fabrication. Act 3, the true terror of 1970. You can probably breathe a sigh of relief knowing 1904 was just a made-up ghost story, right? Well, hold on. Let's move to 1970 and see how this builds into something even more unsettling. Because as Conley kept digging, he found a fully documented reality. We're stripping away the 1904 phantom to reveal the grounded, true crime reality. In the fall of 1970, Fairfax County police records documented a very real man roaming the area in a bunny suit, actively terrorizing the locals. Picture this. On a dark October night, October 18th, 1970 to be exact, Air Force Academy cadet Bob Bennett and his fiancée were parked in their car on Guinea Road in Burke, Virginia. They're just sitting there when they notice something moving in the darkness. Suddenly, a figure wearing a white suit with long bunny ears emerges right out of the bushes. The Bunny Man didn't just walk by. He shouted this incredibly chilling threat at the couple. "You're on private property, and I have your tag number." Then, he violently hurled a hatchet straight through their passenger side window. The glass completely shattered everywhere. Thankfully, the couple was unhurt, and as they slammed on the gas and sped away, the man just skipped off into the dark woods. The police actually recovered the hatchet right from the floorboard of their car. Now, if you thought that was just an isolated incident by some prankster who took things way too far, you'd be wrong. Just over a week later, on October 29th, the terror struck again. A private security guard named Paul Phillips was patrolling Kings Park West, which was a nearby housing development still under construction. There, standing on the porch of an unfinished, unoccupied home, he spots a man in a full rabbit suit.
The guy wasn't just standing there either. He was actively hacking away at the wooden porch railing with a long-handled axe. When the security guard cautiously approached him, the bunny man started screaming about trespassers and explicitly threatened to literally chop off the guard's head if he took another step. Obviously, the guard didn't wait around to see if he was bluffing. He bolted back to his vehicle to grab his firearm. 6 police officers quickly responded and descended on the woods, launching this massive search. The news spread like wildfire, and over the coming weeks, more than 50 unconfirmed sightings of the bunny man totally flooded the police switchboards. But out of all of that, you want to know the most chilling statistic? 0. That is the number of arrests made. Despite the shattered glass, the recovered hatchet from the first attack, the eyewitness testimony of a trained security guard, and this massive police search, the culprit was never found. He just vanished into the Virginia woods.
Act 4. The anatomy of fear.
This brings us to a really fascinating question. Why do we take a totally real, terrifying incident from 1970 and twist it into a 1904 supernatural ghost story? Sociological research shows that urban legends actually serve a profound psychological purpose. They aren't just spooky tales. We exaggerate and distort real events to process our collective anxieties, and we use them to control behavior in our communities. Think about what was going on in Fairfax County in 1970. The area was undergoing massive, rapid suburban development. Forests were being cleared out for housing tracts. Perhaps the real bunny man was just a frustrated local resident, lashing out at the destruction of his quiet woods by threatening people at construction sites and parked cars. But society took that very real threat and transformed him into the ultimate boogeyman, a perfect, custom-built warning to keep vulnerable teens from wandering out into the dark woods at night. As we wrap up this explainer, you're left with a lingering chill that's honestly far scarier than any ghost story. The 1904 myth was fake, but the man from 1970 was entirely real. And since the real hatchet-throwing maniac was never actually caught, who was he? Where did he go? And the biggest question of all, is he still out there? Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the shadows of the bunny man. Keep your eyes on the woods, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.